Hello and welcome to the Pots and Trowels Gardening Podcast with me, Martin, Jill and Sean.
Hello.
And later on in this episode, we're going to be talking to some friends, Lucy and Saul from the Talking Heads podcast, and finding out all about what they do.
If you're new to Pots and Trowels, just to let you know what we do weekly podcasts where we talk to all sorts of people from the world of horticulture. We answer your listeners' questions, so do send your questions in. info@potsandtrowels.com is the email address. And also we do gardening advice videos. You can find all of this information, how to get in touch and where to find all the different videos. Our website is potsandtrowels.com. I looked like I didn't know what I was doing then, didn't I, briefly there? But anyway, we do know what we're doing, honestly.
So coming up later in the podcast, Martins, I think you've invented a new word here. You're winterizing the garden.
Ooh.
I'm not sure I've ever heard that name before.
I think that's an acceptable term in gardening circles.
We know
Definitely.
what it means, don't we? So you're going to be giving some ideas of things that we can do to winterize our garden. And we have a follow-up question from one of our listeners who successfully took some pelargonium cuttings, because we did a video on that a few weeks ago. Anyway, she tried it and she's been successful, but she wants to know what to do next. So
now
that's
what?
coming up.
Yes, watch this space.
Exactly.
There you go. Right. Yes. And we ought to also mention our sponsors, Plant Grow, based down there in Norfolk. They grow lots of field crops that go into anaerobic digesters to make green electricity. And the byproduct they then make into compost, mulch, liquid feed, soil conditioners for the garden. So all organic and sustainable and local to Norfolk. So great products they are as well. But let's start by hearing from Lucy and Saul from Talking Heads. Lucy, Saul, it's always good to catch up with you, and thank you for joining us for a chat on the podcast. I hope you're both well.
Yes, thank you, Martin. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
So I know we've chatted before on our podcast and also on your podcast, which we're going to find out a little bit more about in a minute. But just for people that don't know who Lucy Chamberlain is and Saul Walker, Lucy, just give us a quick background about you.
Yeah. Well, I'm trained at Writtle and Y colleges and then worked at Wisley, and have done lots of work in garden magazines. And then the last 15 or so years, I've been back into practical horticulture. And now I look after gardens in the wonderful county of Essex. And today I got very, very wet. And that's pretty much my November experience.
Right,
yeah.
It doesn't happen that much in Essex because you're quite a dry county normally, aren't you?
We're meant to be dry, Martin, but it bucked the trend today. I turned into Saul Walker today, I think, in Devon. So, but no, I love my practical gardening, but I also do still write for magazines and still work for BBC Essex, and I write books and other magazine articles and things. So I'm a busy bee, but I love it. I love gardening, so...
And horticulture through and through. That's the thing, isn't it? Yes. And Saul, Lucy alluded to you being in Devon. So just tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I've been branded by all three big beasts in horticulture. I've worked for the National Trust, Kew and the RHS. Not always gardening. I was also looking after a few flower shows, Hampton Court, Chelsea, small flower shows, a few flowers here and there, and that's quite nice. But in the last 10 years, quite a long time now, hit a decade this year, I've been the head gardener of a private garden down in the south of Devon, just outside Dawlish, called Stoneland's House, where I've been plying my trade, mowing, and, as Lucy's alluded to, getting very wet. Especially today, it was challenging.
Yeah. So apart from getting really wet today, what's the summer been like for you both? I mean, where you both are, have you experienced that hot, dry summer? I mean, I would imagine you have, Lucy.
Yeah, we have, Martin. But in all honesty, I think that because we are in Essex, which is, like you say, notoriously a very dry county a lot of the time, I think the plants we grow here are fairly used to those conditions, and the gardeners are used to that as well. So although it has been dry and for prolonged periods, I think we're well armed with, there's lots of reservoirs. Gardeners are well tuned to conserving as much water as they can by, using water butts, mulching, growing the appropriate plants. So, it has been a dry summer, but they all are for me. So there we go.
You're used to it, aren't you? But Saul, I mean, in a normal summer, you would still be green and lush down in Devon, I would have thought, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of woody plants, lots of trees, because we have so much moisture. And I think the problem with us, again, a dry summer, not quite as warm as 2022, but still quite dry. But the mildness has continued all the way to even today was getting up to 15, 16 degrees and reasonably mid-teens at night. So it's weird. It's strange weather and the plants are responding in weird ways. So I'm getting used to it. Let's say that. I am worried about moisture levels because as we're a notoriously wet county, lots of our planting is sort of geared up for moisture all year round. So I think a few things might be changing down our way. I'm definitely changing my sort of planting palette to see what works and what doesn't. But it's interesting. It's no means that we're not going to have anything to grow. We just might be able to grow other things that I particularly like, as you know, Martin, from our work on the RHS expert group. More tender things put in the ground is what's certainly working for me.
Yeah, and that's interesting that you picked up you're thinking of growing different things. As I've been at a meeting recently at Harlow Carr, the RHS garden, which is the most northerly of them, and they're starting to now take some of the plant collections grown at Wisley in Surrey that are struggling in the heat and the dry. So they're moving some of the plant collections or parts of them, duplicate copies of the plant collections, up to North Yorkshire, where they hope that they'll grow much better if we start getting these hot, dry summers. So I think it's something we've all probably got to think about in the future, isn't it? Look at what grows in our garden and maybe tweak it a little bit and experiment with different plants.
Yeah, and what's been great about mine and Lucy's podcast, Talking Heads, is because we're on the separate sides of the country, we're constantly coming up with these comparisons. We love talking the weather on the podcast and just some of the changes that we've seen over the 5-6 years we've been doing the podcast. It's been quite interesting to chat about and see what we're actually attempting to do with those conditions. It's not by all means doom and gloom. Let's just say that. Actually, it's just sort of adapting, learning, and then, like Lucy says, getting advice from places which have been dealing with these conditions for maybe a bit longer than we have. So,
Yeah, and it gives us the opportunity to try different plants in the garden, of course, doesn't it? So,
yeah, it does. I'm on sandy soil, so for me, being in Essex and also on the sandy soil, I say this is nothing new in a way to me. I've been growing. Everyone knows I love my edibles, and I've been growing edibles that are really drought tolerant, and finding that there are some crops that are so able to still thrive and produce wonderful, leafy, abundant foliage in the driest of conditions. So things like amaranth and tree spinach and globe artichokes, for example, for me are doing really well. New Zealand spinach. So I've found over the last been experimenting with the last probably 10 years or so with these unusual edibles. I'm really excited that plants are able to adapt. I know that we're saying that the climate is changing more rapidly, and it is alarming. I'm not saying it's not, but plants are so able to shrug off certain things, and that's if Essex is a sign of what other parts of the country will be like in the future. It's not all doom and gloom. We can grow some wonderful things here. It's just choosing plants with those adaptations.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, we mustn't not garden and people mustn't be put off, because we can just adapt. And like you say, lots of plants are very tough and resilient, and they change to the conditions, don't they, very often? So, So talking heads then, I think you're getting near to 300 episodes, aren't you? So
we're over 300 if we include our bonus episodes.
Oh, I see. Right.
That's a technicality. That's a technicality to us.
Okay. We've only just gone over 100, so we're a long way behind you. We're never going to catch you up, are you? Never going to catch you up. But how did it all start, Talking Heads then? You know, what gave you the idea? Because both head gardeners, was it, the catalyst that started it?
It was my fault, to be honest with you, Martin. I got bored in the depths of winter and was looking up a local college, adult college, with courses they do in the evening. And I saw one called a podcast course. And I think podcasts maybe 5-6 years ago were something that were we're talking just before the pandemic started. And they were sort of not that new, but not something that was on our radar like they are everywhere now. There must be hundreds of thousands of them all over the place. So I decided to do the course. It was only 6 weeks, and I'd known Lucy for quite a while from Gardener's World Live. We do the plant expert desk there, answering people's questions. We do tours now. We do all kinds of things. But the one thing I noticed about me and Lucy is that we could talk the hind legs off a donkey when it came to things like gardens, plants, just wanted to talk to people all about things. So that sort of translates well when you want to actually talk down a microphone for half an hour. We call it haughty waffle because we literally can chat about anything. And that's what the podcast sort of evolved from that. We sort of did it as an initial thing. And then I think it was the pandemic where it really started kicking in. Because obviously me and Lucy had nothing to do in the evenings, but sort of stare into the screen and talk how much gardening is sort of saving us all through this period of time where we had nothing else to do. So it was great. And we've been there for 6 years. So
brilliant. Well, congratulations. And because you both know your subject inside out, Lucy, so it's quite easy to talk about gardening, isn't it?
Oh, do you know, it's lovely, Martin. I think both Saul and I have said that because we love talking, and at the time the podcast started, I was head gardening on an estate that, again, was owned by a family. I wouldn't see them a huge amount. And Saul and I both felt this kind of void where we were doing all this work on our estates and we couldn't explain to people about it. And so I think from that point of view, we both found it really enjoyable to share with each other the experiences. And as we've said, you know, Saul is in Devon on clay soil, very mild, very wet. I'm in Essex on sandy soil. Sometimes it can be clay, but where I am, it's sandy. You know, can be very dry, can sometimes be, you know, more cold than Devon in particular. And I think also just the fact that we've got slightly different voices. I don't know if you've noticed that. Saul's voice is slightly different to mine. And so I think when people listen to a podcast, you can pick us apart very readily, and that makes their listening experience very straightforward. And we're so surprised that it's been successful, but we do love doing it, don't we?
And that shows when you listen to your podcast. And of course, we mustn't forget Saul's got a beard as well, which obviously you haven't.
I'm working on mine.
You're working on that one. Exactly. And it's a fine beard as well, Saul.
It's the wet weather in Devon. It sort of grows a bit like the lichens on our tree, you know.
Exactly.
It is quite like that.
It's like you could enter that into the RHS Tillandsia trial.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's very xerophytic during the summer. That's for certain.
I buy you one of those from the show once because it looks so much.
You did.
Like
I remember that.
There
yes.
You go. It's still going.
From it around here.
Hook it into there. Yes. Right. Well, what we'll do, we're just going to take a very short break, and then I'm going to come back to you, and we'll just have a little chat about some of the other work that you do, and any plans you've got for next year, 2026, and maybe one or two little tips for our listeners. That'd be quite nice to get tips from somebody other than me. So back with you in a minute. It is always lovely to catch up with Lucy and Saul and have a chat, and as they call it, haughty waffle. As you know, I can waffle as well, so it's and
I'm semi-haughty waffle.
Yes. Exactly. Yes. And you're admiring the Tillandsia.
I know, it's just grown there since the beginning.
So if you're watching this on YouTube, we've got some Tillandsia, which is this lovely epiphyte plant that grows on trees, and its common name is Spanish moss. Doesn't come from Spain. Paula Routledge gave us that from Floral Media. So we just have it hanging up in the porch, and we missed it. And it does remind me very much of Saul's beard.
It is, I can see sort of like one of those sort of handlebar moustache type.
Exactly.
Fabulous.
But good to catch up with them. And the fact that they both live at opposite sides of the country, wet and dry, means that they've got an awful lot to talk about and can compare how plants grow as well.
Do go over and check out their website and check out their podcast. And I think Martin's hopefully going to do a little guest slot over there as well.
I think, we've not set the date, but I'm going to go and have a chat to them on the Talking Heads. But I mean, they're long running, they're very popular. So do listen to that and let's share the love between us.
Absolutely, definitely. Should we get into these questions?
Yes. So shall I go first? Because
because we should say how to send a question if you want to send a question in. Honestly, we know what we're doing. Info on Pots and Trowels. Drop us an email if you've got a question. Please do tell us where you are, and if you've got any photos, do send those through.
That really does help, because we know some of our listeners aren't in the UK. So if you're living in America or Australia, let us know, because it can make a difference to the answer.
Well, Lucy is in Hampshire, so we know where she is, and I'm very excited for you, Lucy. So well done. Lucy was watching a video.
Two Lucy's together on the programme. Lucy Chamberlain, Lucy in Hampshire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Lucy watched a video that we did a few weeks ago on taking pelargonium cuttings.
It's more than a few weeks ago, but yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think was it September?
Okay, well, that's a definition of a few weeks. But anyway, moving on. And she decided to have a go at taking pelargonium cuttings, more importantly. And it's worked. So she's done them on her windowsill. They've rooted, which she's really thrilled about. But now she wants to know what to do next.
Okay, right. Well done for taking them and getting them to root. That's the hardest bit, isn't it? Getting them to root. Depends what they're in. I mean, I've been out. Jill will model now for you a pot of pelargoniums. I've just run out to the greenhouse. So I root ours in the greenhouse. They've had no heat. They've just rooted cold. So that is an old variety, a Victorian variety.
Jill's
called
holding
a
the
Happy
pot up
Thought.
to the camera for those of you who are listening.
Which is a lovely variegated one. And that's a 10 centimetre pot. And I've rooted 5 cuttings in that, Lucy. So I don't know how you've done yours. And I will now leave those to overwinter, because, here we are now. It's the end of November. If I start to pot them now into fresh, wet compost and you can't give them much heat, then they're not going to like that very much. And, on a windowsill, the light levels are still low. So I will leave those in the pot. I will keep them just frost free. They're going to come in from the greenhouse anytime now. We've got a little porch that's very bright at the back of the house where we can keep the frost off. And I keep the compost just moist, almost on the dry side.
It's really light.
It feels really light.
They are ready for a drop of water. But
we've talked about it before, haven't we? You can feel how much water's in.
Never let them sit wet, because they will rot off. And they won't grow much. They'll just tick over now for the next, couple of months. So that will take us through to February. And then when the days gradually start to get longer, I'll take them out of that pot, gently tease the roots apart and pot them individually into a 9 centimetre, 10 centimetre pot in a good potting compost. And then again, just keep them frost free. They will gradually start to grow as the weather warms up. So for now, I would leave them as they are rooted, just keep them ticking over.
Okay.
Well, we have another question. It's come from Chris in Harrogate, and it feels quite apt, actually, because it's about houseplants, and I feel like I'm surrounded by houseplants at the moment. Not all of them are houseplants, but plants in the house. The central heating's obviously come on because it's getting cold, definitely in Harrogate, which is North Yorkshire here in the UK. And they're basically wondering, they've got a variety of houseplants, including a large yucca. Should they be watering them? And if so, how often? What's the recommended? I guess there's all different kinds of houseplants. Again, looking around at what we've got here. But yeah,
I mean, you do still need to keep watering them. And the fact that you've got your heating on means there's warmth in the house. So they're still going to dry out. So, the thing is, we've not got the long days. We've got short days, but they will tick over, but you've got to keep them moist. So we go around probably once a week at this time of the year and just check the compost. The thing to do is feel the compost. If it feels moist, then don't water them. If you think it's drying out, or do the trick of lifting it out of the pot cover. If it feels light, the chances are the compost has dried out, and give it a little bit of water. The secret is never let them sit in water. We've got this lovely begonia here. This is one that we got from Dibley's at one of the shows. The pot is inside a cover. If you just hold it by the stalk, Sean, that will just lift out. So you can see it's not a huge pot in there. So we would water that, let it drain before we put it back into the decorative pot holder, because if they sit in water, they're going to rot off over the winter. So cut back on the water, but they still do need a little bit. And you could still give them just a very weak feed, once a month, just a half strength feed, just to keep them going. And what is a good thing, if your house is very warm and you've got a log burner on and radiators going, if it's a really nice fine day, just take them outside, or even put them on the draining board or in the bathroom, just mist them with a little bit of water to create that humidity. That prevents the leaves drying out and those little dry bits at the end of the leaf. So we've got to give them a bit of TLC over the winter months.
Good stuff. Well, if you've got a question for Martin or anyone on the team, drop us an email, info@potsandtrowels.com. All those contact details on the website, potsandtrowels.com. All that information is in our show notes. Should we go back and hear a little bit more about what's going on with Lucy and Saul?
Mm-hmm. The podcast then is obviously a big part of what you do, but you are both involved with various things with the RHS, aren't you? I was going to say committees, but they are now expert groups. So Lucy,
yes.
what are you on with the RHS?
Yeah, so I sit on the fruit, vegetable and herb expert group, which is a lovely, diverse group. We're actually meeting up on Wednesday of this week at Vincent Square at the RHS headquarters. So that is where I've been for the last couple of years, and I'm in charge of any sustainability issues on the group. So I really enjoy it. It brings you very much into more close contact with the RHS workings. So that's great to be, sort of one of the first to be informed of what's going on at the main gardens. That's lovely. And just to meet like-minded souls who have a passion for all things edible. I find that really satisfying.
Yeah, and of course all the RHS gardens have got their edible garden, productive garden.
Yeah.
They've all got different names for them, but they've all got essentially big fruit and veg gardens, and they're all very different as well. So it must be good to be able to go and see all of those. So Saul, you're on we both are on the tender ornamental expert group, and you are a big tender man, aren't you? In lots of ways.
Yeah, well, I'm very lucky to be in that part of the world where you can grow lots of wonderful things, but especially the leafy stuff. That's my big leaves, lots of vegetation, gingers, bananas, alocasia, colocasia. Those things are sort of my bag. And I know that a lot of the members of our expert group are more about sort of undercover growing. So we very much focus at greenhouse and nursery production and those big sort of display houses like at Wisley and at Kew. But I tend to like to take those things and try them, or at least trial them outside, just to see where that tender mark is in some ways, just to test the hardiness. Because as we discussed in the first part of our discussion, I think things are changing, and I think things can be grown a bit more, especially through the winter period. We're probably going to find the summer might become a bit more of a problem with things with the dryness, to be honest. So I like that end of trialing stuff that maybe traditionally weren't grown outside so much.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people do like these exotic looking plants. I mean, we've got a garden there, isn't it? I think you know the people, Saul, Jenny and Roger Grayson. I mean, they have created this. In fact, I did a podcast with them recently and we filmed there. They've got this most amazing exotic tropical garden in Lincolnshire, and lots of the plants are hardy, but big leaves and stay out, and the rest they take in. And you can, even if you don't want the trouble of growing tender plants and taking them in, there's a lot that you can leave out and will stand the frost. So I think they're good. They just add structure to the garden.
And you know what? They actually holiday a lot in the West Country. I see them almost 3 times a year at various plant fairs and nurseries down here, buying new plants from us and taking them further north. And again, they're quite an inspiration because they're quite, high latitude, and they do get away with a lot of the stuff that I grow at home. I know they stuff their house, their bedrooms, their conservatory full of more tender stuff to get it over winter. But what a wonderful example of a couple really taking gardening to the edge. Yeah.
Well, if you want to know more, you can always listen to the podcast on Pots and Trowels. So what about any projects, any plans for next year? Because I always think this is a time of the year when you're starting to think about what you're going to be doing next year. So Lucy, what about you in your gardening world? And anything new, anything different you're going to try? Any new events you're working at?
Yeah, so I had deliberately a bit of a quieter year in 2025 because I know you've done this, Martin. I wrote a book in 2024, which was released in early 25, and you very kindly helped me promote it. Thank you. So that was the Grow Food Anywhere book for the RHS.
Yes.
And it's a bit of a project getting a book out. And so I deliberately stepped back and just took a bit more time to enjoy family life. And I've actually just really tried to establish my gardening jobs, because for me, I've found that's where I'm really happiest, is actually in the garden. And so I've now got 3 or 4 jobs around my local area and in some lovely gardens. So that for me has been nice, just to lay that foundation down and get back to my, I know sorry, I was going to say get back to my roots, but that's way too corny and cliche. But just get back to what I really love. And I think from that, then I'll layer up. We've got our shows that Saul and I are both involved in, the Gardener's World, Spring Fair at Bewley and the Autumn Fair at Audley End, and then obviously Gardener's World Live. And there's always an exciting opportunity there to try new things. We've got a very good relationship with the shows team, and they often come to us with ideas for us to try for 2026. So there's a few things in the pipeline there. But I know you talked about tropicals. I know that is Saul's real, love.
Not just me now. Not just me anymore, Lucy.
This is what's happened, because we're expanding our home and just trying to get the garden up to scratch. We're renovating little areas at a time. And the last thing that we renovated in this year was a deck down the bottom of the garden. But my main objective was to make it like a tropical area. And I really enjoyed that. And I'm going to build on that next year. I've already got my coleus cuttings taken, my plectranthus. And again, I'm trying to grow things that I can overwinter quite in a straightforward way. So salvias, I've got cuttings of. I grow lots of amaranth. I'll grow lots of things from seed that are lush. I'll grow hardy plants that are looking exotic, like Paulonia, like catalpa, phormiums, all those sort of things, figs, anything that's got lovely exotic foliage that's hardy. So I'm loving that. And that's thanks definitely to Saul Walker's inputs. So that is very exciting. I'm absolutely loving it. And in Essex, it's dry, but I do water that quite a lot. So I've got to get my brain around the watering of it as well. But that's really exciting me. And all the lush tropicals are so vivid and energetic. They're very exciting plants.
They are, yeah. Well, that's a good project, that is. Yes, exactly. So what about you then, Saul? Anything different for next year? Have you got any plans to do things?
Well, there's something major occurring next year, but I'm going to have to keep it a bit on the down low.
Okay.
Well, we've already said that tune into our podcast. This is the plug.
Is the beard going to go, Saul?
Maybe Lucy. We might see that. We might do that for charity. No, there's a major change for me next year. But the one thing I'm doing at home though is my ginger collection is now at the point where I feel like might go for national collection status.
Oh, wow!
Just thinking about it. There is a Hedychium collection already in the UK, owned by Andrew Gaunt at Chichester Gingers down in Sussex. But his grow all under glass. So the whole collection is under this massive Dutch greenhouse. So my collection will actually be more focusing on those that grow outside and are hardy through the whole winter. And the nice thing is this is linking into some of the work we're doing at the RHS on the trials team. So we've had the Hedychium trial now going for, I think this is its second year, both at East Rushden in East Anglia and also up at Flores Castle in Scotland, which is really very interesting because I believe the guys up there have been quite amazed by the hardiness of some of these plants that they felt they would never get away with up in Scotland. Yeah. And they're getting some very nice results up there. And these are all open ground, so they've not been taken in. So, so I'm looking at that. And I know there's a lot of things that go into registering a national collection. You have to have a copy of each plant within the collection so that you have a backup just in case. You also have to make it available occasionally to the public if they want to come and see it, or at least be there to advise. So I've got a lot of things to think about, but that's my direction of travel, I think, at home. So that's quite exciting. I think I'm looking forward to seeing if that's going to work out. Let's go and talk to the guys at Plant Heritage. So
yes, well, and you certainly know your gingers because in the meetings you're the one that knows every ginger. So I've only got two in pots. I'm aiming to get 1 or 2 more because I'm going to do not as big as you're doing, Lucy, but we're doing a little water feature by the greenhouse, a little paved courtyard, but we're going to do it mainly in pots and have some big leaves there. So I might be tapping Saul up for the odd ginger or two. You never know. So finally, or 2 finalies really, how about a little tip each? Just a gardening tip for our listeners from somebody other than me. for this time of the year, obviously.
Yeah. Well, what I've been doing at the moment and what is going to keep on going on is the leaves are falling so much. All my gardening jobs at the minute is just collecting up leaves. But our most recent episode, we sort of lifted the lid on leaf mold and the wonders of it and how it can be useful. And Saul and I are both massive advocates of mulching. And I think because we're still so mild at the moment, I'm quite happily mulching well into November whilst we're still in these double figures in the day and at night.
Yeah.
And the ground is moist. It's perfect time to collect those leaves, get some stashed away to make leaf mold. But if you've already got some that's been rotted down for a year or so, or 2 years, then that makes the most amazing mulch, especially for woodland plants that, naturally come from that sort of habitat where the leaves fall and protect the ground. So that is my top tip. It makes any kind of like long, hot summers that we might be facing in the future that bit easier for the plants to cope with.
Perfect. Yes, and there's a lot of leaves about at the minute, so gather them up. And what about you, Saul? What are you doing in the garden at the moment?
Yeah, well, I'm thinking about water. And again, this sort of relates to the conversation we're having earlier. The fact that, especially in the West Country, we tend to be having water coming all at once at very certain periods of time. So I'm thinking more about how I'm going to store water to be used rather than taking out the tap, because we actually had a water hosepipe ban right at the end of that 22 period. That actually lasted almost a year in the West Country, which was I think it took a lot of people by surprise, especially since we're meant to be a wetter county. So the one thing I'd like to put in is more ornamental water storage, because one of the big problems with water butts is they can be reasonably ugly.
They can.
It can be quite hard to know where to place them so that they don't take up that lot of space. But there are more lovely examples that are coming out. Me and Lucy go to the Garden Press event very early on in the year. I think it's February, where a lot of these manufacturers bring their new products along. And the one that caught my eye this year and last year, in fact, were dipping tanks. I don't know if this is something you've heard of, Martin.
Yes, I saw them there last year. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I was quite impressed with how they looked. It's almost like the old cattle troughs that you might see in the fields around here, but they were quite ornamental, and you can plant things in them like aquatic plants, and that holds onto the water. So I might put a couple of those dotted around my house. That might look quite nice with a few plants. Aquatic plant, you get some of those aquatic gingers or cannas. Those nice aquatic cannas might look quite nice in those. And then that will store a bit of water for you, but also look quite nice. That's what I'm sort of thinking of, because I need to store more water, especially if I'm going to have this national collection of gingers.
I think we all need to store more water, don't we, for next year, even if it's just to save money on the water bill. So, don't waste it. Brilliant. It's been great catching up with you. Thank you very much for joining us. Carry on raking those leaves and collecting all that water, Saul, won't you? And we'll no doubt see each other soon. Otherwise, we'll probably see you at the press event in February, if not before. So, thank you for joining us. And if anybody, of course, wants to hear more of Saul and Lucy, then you can find Talking Heads on your normal provider, where you'll be able to listen to them talking haughty waffle every week. Thanks, you two. Brilliant.
Thanks, Martin.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, tropical plants do seem to be getting quite popular at the minute. I mean, we had the video a couple of weeks ago about the secret garden of Louth, which is tropical plants. And I think Saul's always had a thing for tropical plants, but then Lucy's starting, it's been infectious, isn't it?
It is, because those big, bold leaves just really add atmosphere to the garden. And as we were saying when we were chatting, there's a lot of plants that are hardy, that look tropical. They've got lush leaves like fatsias and that type of thing. But then you can put your cannas in, and the lovely gingers, the ornamental gingers, the adicium, which Saul loves. Because being down in Devon, he can leave most of them out all year round. Where we are, we've got two. They're in pots, and they've got to go in the greenhouse for the winter because the frost would kill them. But I do like them. We're going to do a little few in our garden, just in a little group.
I like what he was saying about kind of pushing the limit or finding where that sort of, I don't know, borderline between it being tender and not being tender. But obviously that's going to change depending on where you are in the world as much as anything.
Absolutely, yeah. And, even in the UK, Devon, you can get away with it. You get into Yorkshire, probably further north, you can't. So, we always talk about the north-south divide in England with the weather, but it's also east to west.
Yes.
That ridge of hills in the middle of the Pennines, it's wet one side,
Yeah,
dry
we
the other.
remember them. We showed the map a few.
That's
few
right,
podcasts ago,
exactly.
talked
Yeah.
about the map, yeah.
So it's fascinating. The fact that they're both in different parts, they can discuss all of these parts of the country.
Can I ask a question about ginger? So moving away, because Sauls are the ornamental gingers, aren't they?
Yeah.
I love ginger in the kitchen.
You drink a lot of ginger,
I drink
don't
a
you?
lot of ginger tea. It's very healing and calming. So if we wanted to have a go at growing some root ginger, can we do that? How do we do that?
Well, we have sprouted it. You can buy a bit of root ginger, can't you, from a supermarket and sprout it and get it to grow and root. So we've never got it to the point where it's produced a big root.
I'm going to show my ignorance here because I'm imagining it's like carrots, with roots of ginger. It's not like that, is it? Root ginger.
It's a bit like it's a rhizome. It's It looks like an iris.
I mean, I've seen the actual thing because I've cooked with it. I bought it in the shops.
Well, there'll be dormant buds on that. So if you can get it to root down, you put it more or less on the surface, they'll grow up. So whether, I don't know, Saul is the person to ask. When I join them as a guest on Talking Heads podcast, I'll take that as a question for Saul. If we buy supermarket ginger, can we grow it?
Well, that's I want you to do that for me, please.
Oh dear, right. Okay, greenhouse full of ginger next year.
Yes.
We'll be a ginger
Save
farm.
a fortune.
There you go. Right, I've got a few jobs then just to finish us off because time is ticking on. Mentioned winterizing the garden. I mean, we're at the end of November now. We've not had a lot of really cold weather, to be fair. It's been damp and cool. We've had a couple of light frosts a while ago, but it is now time to think that, December, January, we are potentially going to get some frost, certainly where we are in Lincolnshire. So winterizing the garden is just making sure everything is right. So, for example, if you've got an outdoor tap, either turn it off at the stop top if you can, or stop tap.
Stop cock.
Stop cock, is it?
Yes.
Okay, stop cock, not a stop tap.
No, that's in your toilet.
Well, isolate it. Enough.
Stop the water from going into it in some manner.
Isolate. Or if you can't isolate it, then make sure that it's lagged. So you can buy these covers that you put over them or get some hessian or bubble wrap around them so they can't freeze, essentially what we're doing. Make sure that, any plants that are borderline hardy that you can't move inside, they're put into, if they're in a pot, put them into a shelter position, maybe against the south facing wall. Lift any pots off the ground with pot feet so the water drains, so you're not getting waterlogged, and have some fleece ready. If you've got slightly tender plants, if a frost is forecast, you can drape some fleece over it just to keep a little bit of the frost away. Things like tree ferns, if you're lucky enough to have a tree fern, then people often wrap them up, which is what they do at the Secret Garden of Louth. They hold all the foliage up and wrap layers and layers and layers of fleece around it, just to stop the frost getting to it, and the trunk as well. So all those little things that you can be doing just to make sure that when the cold weather comes, you're prepared for it, instead of when you hear it on the news at night saying it's going to be -5, thinking, oh, where's the fleece? Have it all ready to go. And the other thing is, if you've got a lawn and you've got any damaged patches, we've got a damaged patch on all ours. Now is the perfect time to do any lawn repairs. So we're going to dig some lawn up to make a new border, and some of that turf that I lift, I will use to patch some of the other areas in. But if you've got a bit of a dip, just lift that square of turf, put a little bit of soil underneath it to level it out, and put the turf back in so it levels it out. Likewise, if you've got a hump in your lawn, take the turf off, dig a bit of soil out and lay the turf back. So you can do this sort of work on your lawn at this time of the year. It will then root down, and come spring, it will look so much better.
And thank you for joining us for Pots and Trowels this week. And don't forget, if you enjoyed listening to this, then do join us for podcasts every week and videos as well. So all sorts of gardening subjects that we cover. We answer your questions. We do lots of jobs and things for you to do in your garden. So do join us.
And generally have a jolly good time. Have a laugh at the same time.
And don't forget to tell your friends about it as well. So if you've really enjoyed it, then give us a shout out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And we'll be back with you next week. So we'll see you then.
Bye.
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 Watch the gardening videos on YouTube, Instagram or Facebook. Our short reels are also on TikTok, and all the contact details and links to all the videos and the podcast episodes can all be found at potsandtrowels.com.